All right, so I happen to think of something. This is actually after I recorded the video. I've put the turbo all back together, but I'm going to put this in the beginning of the video. So it's actually the beginning of the video, but it's after the recording. I'm confusing myself. I don't know. Anyway, so what this turbo was doing was setting a P003A fault, which is it exceeded its learning limit. Now, this thing, a calibration could have caused that, but this was never messed with, so I don't think it was that. More than likely, it's this actuator. However, if you do decide that you want to replace your actuator, you will have to follow a scan tools procedure for the recalibration of this, which will probably involve, it's been a while since I've done it, but I think it involves doing a self-align and then a calibration. And you may have to do it before you remove the old one. I'm not 100% sure. I can't remember for certain as to that's how it's supposed to go. But just make sure that you follow your instructions on your scan tool, and that may be something you want to check before you take the old actuator off. Definitely before you put the new actuator on, you'll have to do the pre-align, and it'll take you through 2 steps. So I think maybe that's how it is. Anyway, I guess if the old one doesn't work, it doesn't make a difference whether. Disregard what I said. I wasn't thinking. Before you put the new actuator on, you will need to do before you bolt it up, you'll need to do a pre-align in the scan tool. So it'll get the actuator in position, then you put it on, and then calibrate it after you put it on. Hopefully that makes sense. I believe that if you buy one from Circuit Board Medics, I believe they have a tool that you can either borrow or buy to do that without a scan tool. Don't quote me on that 100% for sure, but I think so. And if I'm wrong, I apologize. But yeah, so hopefully you'll enjoy this video. Now, regular scheduled programming. Contact. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to HR Repair. This is After Hours, and, well, after hours, I don't really have any hours to speak of. So, I guess we'll call it, we're just here at the shop. And we're going to dissect a turbo this evening. This turbo has 370,000 miles on it. It comes off of a 2017 Dodge Ram 3500 with the 6.7 liter Cummins turbo diesel. This turbo suddenly had issues with, there's several codes. I believe it was a P006A, which is like it was communication faults, and then learning exceeded, and there was just a whole thing with the actuator. And usually what will happen is this actuator goes bad, and usually the reason that it goes bad is because the turbo failed internal, whether it stuck or whether it's broke. Now, every now and again he could get the turbo to work. Otherwise it was always like no boost, wouldn't build any boost, nothing like that. And as we can see, I mean, it spins freely, but the way these variable geometry turbos work, if the vanes are completely open, nothing is going past the turbine housing to build boost and spin the compressor housing to build boost. So I'd like to dissect this thing. We'll see if we can figure out what went wrong here. Maybe it was just a failure of the VGT actuator, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe there's more wrong with it than that. So we're going to take this thing apart and just see what we find. So stay tuned, and we'll see what we get figured out here. All right, so what we're going to do, first thing, is we're going to go ahead and look this thing over, make sure there's no obvious mechanical failures. The reason that we went ahead and just put a new turbo on it, 370,000 miles, and also whenever we start having trouble with the VGT actuator, it is almost as much work to replace the actuator as it is to just replace the whole turbo. And so we always recommend to the customer that he replace the turbo, because I have already, back before I learned this, I replaced the actuator. The first one I did worked out perfect. The second one I did, I went through, I don't know how many hours of labor just to get that thing replaced, put it on, and figured out that the reason this thing failed is because of the turbo being froze up internal, and this thing couldn't turn the turbo, the vanes in the turbo. So ended up burning up the new one. Now I felt like I had to stand good for the VGT actuator and put in a new turbo for the customer. So to me, it's not worth it. So we're going to go ahead. Let's take these Allen's screws loose. These might be a little harder to get to down here. Yep. I don't have any of the extended reach. Hang on. Lauren might have some in his toolbox. And he's not here to tell me that I don't get to use them. So, all right, let's see if we can break these loose without. And this is the other problem you run into, is these being froze up. So I should probably just leave this for the rebuilder, but what's the fun in that? You know, and for all we know, we may have only a failure of the electronic part of this actuator, but I hate taking that chance since I've been burnt once. If that wasn't a whole lot to change the thing, if it was, 10-minute job to change it, you could try it and see what happens, but such is not the case. Let's rat-a-tat it a little bit with the impact and see what happens. Oops. That was a bad idea. Kind of unusual for them to stick this hard. Get our hammer here. Man. Maybe we won't get this apart. Nope. Let's try the other one here. This one's loose. Let me see what I can do about getting these others loose. Once we get that loose, I'll bring you guys back. All right, well, we finally got it off of here. Wow. I had to drill that thing out. I think I can now get that bolt out of there. But so what what this thing does is we have antifreeze that comes in, cools around here, runs around in here. That is to attempt to keep this actuator cool. So but there's a actuator, computer controlled actuator inside here, and it turns this right here. There's like a little motor inside with a circuit board, and they will often lose communication because it either burns up or it just goes bad. Now, one of the things that actually happens with these is this thing will get stuck here, which it takes some force to get it to move. We could have maybe, no, that takes too much force to move. It moves freely one way, but not the other way. Like this way, it moves just fine. It's not as stuck as what I would have expected. So there's a good possibility we could have actually made this one work, as long as there's no failure of the vanes inside. So let's go ahead, since we're this far in, let's just go ahead, take this clamp off. Let's split the turbine off of the center mount and see what we find. I think that's a 7/16. It is. Okay, so we'll break this loose, and we may have a little hard time getting this split. I don't know. Don't break, whatever you do. Coming apart. You know, for 370,000 miles, not in too bad a shape. And you're loose. Okay. So honestly, this turbo does not look too bad. Really looks good. So I know why it goes easier one way than the other. Gravity. Really not a whole lot of wear on anything. I'm impressed. I was expecting to see a lot worse than this. I mean, this would have probably been one of those we could have gotten by with not having to replace the whole turbo, but man, for the amount of miles, that it's got on it, I would have not wanted to chance it. And he does over-the-road trucking, so he didn't want to be stuck somewhere without a turbo. So that's why he decided to do a whole turbo. I mean, in all honesty, not a bad looking turbo. Like this actually is really impressive. I don't see any major failure on the turbo itself. So I don't know. I don't even know if I'll put this video up because there's nothing really to see here except for what the inside of a Cummins turbo looks like. So if you don't know, I guess I'll explain it. Maybe I'll decide to put it up. But if you don't know, the way these work, I think I've explained it on a Duramax, so it's a little different on a Duramax. But basically what happens is when you want to have more or less boost, it will move these vanes and direct more or less exhaust past the turbine wheel here, or here, past the turbine wheel. So more or less, which affects the speed of the turbo, the pressure that the exhaust pressure that you get on this turbo, thus creating more speed, more airflow on the compressor side. That's basically the plain and simple of how it works. So oftentimes we'll have a failure in this part of the turbo, whether it'll either get stuck to where it can't move. The one that I had that I couldn't get the actuator to work, the new actuator to work, like I was able to move it part of the way, but not all of the way. So this one we're able to move the whole way. So I honestly think that this one would have been okay to put a new actuator on it and run. But in all reality, and this is the choice you have to make, whether, you know, good or bad, do you spend on a brand new turbo, which was about, I think he got his for like $2,000, or do you spend $1,200 on a new one of these and take a chance that it's going to fix it or not? And it's about the same labor. So in my opinion, it's a pretty straightforward shot of what I'm going to recommend to the customer. I'm going to recommend that he put a brand new turbo on it, or rebuilt turbo, remanufactured turbo. If you go with Chrysler, if you take it to your Dodge dealership, they're going to charge you a little over $4,000 just for the turbo. If you find yourself a good Holset turbo remanufacturer, or a shop that's able to get the Holset turbo straight from the factory, you're going to be able to save yourself a ton of money. You basically, what Chrysler does is Holset makes the turbo for them, and then they mark it up $2,000, or, well, the Chrysler marks it up, the dealer marks it up, and then if I buy it from the dealer, I'm marking it up. I've got to make money too. So I've found that I've had just as good a luck going straight to the, I've got a guy got a shop that down south of me about 45 minutes that does very good with turbos, and they'll sell me a remanufactured one for $2,000. So that's what I always go with, and it's actually Scheid Diesel. They're not sponsored. They don't sponsor me at all, but they're about 45 minutes south of me here, and we've got a good working relationship. I can walk in there and pretty much pick everything off the shelf there. They've got it all there, especially when it comes to Cummins, but they do have injectors for the Duramax, Power Stroke, Cummins, you name it, they've got it. So good company to work with. I like them. So again, not sponsored, just somebody I deal with. So hopefully, I don't know if I'll upload this or not. It seems like it's kind of a video that went nowhere. I mean, I guess the only thing it was passing a little bit of oil through here. That might have been just because we had it setting on its snout. So I don't know. I don't know if I'll upload this video or not, but if I do, let me know, I guess, down in the comments below what you thought of this. Is this helpful at all? All right, well, as I was editing the video, I figured out that I lost the footage of the turbo. As I was saying, if you found this helpful at all, let me know down in the comments below. I'd be interested in knowing if you enjoy any of these teardowns like this. I've got a few others that I could do over time. I mean, I've got a heater core that I cut apart. There's a video on that I could put out if you guys enjoy this kind of stuff at all. If you don't, no hard feelings, no problem. But I thought maybe if you guys do, I know I enjoy seeing things that failed and see what failed. Gives me an idea of what happened. So yeah, let me know down in the comments below what you guys thought. I've debated about putting this video up, and I guess I decided to go ahead and do it. So thank you for watching. Hopefully you're still here. I appreciate it. Y'all have a wonderful day and a happy 2025 to everyone. I appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.